And He is everything we need. Most of the time we just don't realize it. We search in other venues, other avenues, other places. And the secret to real life is finding Him. I'm glad y'all heard that too. Maybe my hearing had just gone bad or something. But Jesus is everything we need. You know, the sad story, the sad commentary on that, folks, is that people spend their life, we spend our lives searching. We spend our lives searching for something. Quite often we just don't know what it is. But we know it's there. It has to be, because there's this void in our lives. There's this dissatisfaction. There's this deep-seated need. And we begin this search, and we satisfy ourselves with relationships or a drug or an alcohol or something, or a new car. And it is a search to find satisfaction of what's taking place, that longing in my heart. And quite often we try and satisfy that with just the things that surround us and creating something that we think we need, and then we find out it just doesn't do it. Because ultimately there is nothing. There is nothing that satisfies that longing in our soul, that empty void in our lives, apart from the God who created us. Now the sad thing also is that in that search, we discount that God is aware of us, that God cares about us, that He is even remotely close to us, and we spend our lives trying to live up to a notion or a height that somehow or another I have to attain this before I'm acceptable to God. I have to go through this process. I have to achieve this before God will pay any attention to me, before God is interested in me, before God will show up and show out in my life. And that's the bill of goods that we're sold. Our own hearts tell us that. The world tells us that. This person called the devil himself will whisper that in our ear. And we play that tape over and over again of our own choosing. That, boy, if I was just better, or if I was just them, or if I just had that, or if I just did this. And we step into this life on this journey of a proving ground. I have to prove myself. Well, dear friend, God, by His Word and by His presence on this earth, has proven that He is the answer to your search. He is the answer to exactly what you're longing for in the recesses of your heart. And He has made Himself available. This morning I want to share out of 2 Chronicles. That's way at the front of the book. Somewhere around Kings and those areas. Nestled between 1 Chronicles and Nehemiah, way up there at the front. And it's, mostly I just want to share this story with you this morning. I don't have an outline, I don't have a PowerPoint this morning. I just want you to hear something. You have this incredible story of God's continual activity in our lives. And if you've ever doubted that God's not interested, He's not interested, that God is interested in us, then I want you to hear this morning. I want to use one verse to kind of set the stage of where we're going this morning, and it is in 2 Chronicles 16, verse 9. 2 Chronicles 16, verse 9. We're going to refer all the way back to Chronicles 14th chapter. and hit some highlights here because I want you to hear this story. And I want it to take root in your heart this morning about this God who knows you and who cares about you and who is available to you regardless of what your understanding is about that. And verse 9 simply says, "For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong on behalf of you, on behalf of those whose heart is loyal to him." There is an agreement that needs to take place in our lives. There is an understanding in this agreement that, number one, there is a God. God is real, and he has not only told us about himself, but he has demonstrated himself in the life of Jesus Christ. There's no other way to explain who Jesus Christ is other than he is the Son of the living God. This is 2018. Why is this 2018? It's 2018 because we base that on Jesus Christ. When he appeared, he changed everything. He even changed our calendar. Okay, I'm a year behind. No, actually, what's the date? I'm only 2 weeks behind. 2019. Okay, I haven't written that down yet. You just got a year older. Man, that was fast. It's 2019, and we base that on because of his appearing on this earth and all that he did and his resurrection. But God's heart, this verse tells us, and his eye is on you. And he wants to see how you will respond to him as he has responded to you. He's responded, as I've already said, by his presence on this earth. He has responded to you because he continuously comes into our life, convicting us and calling us. Some people call it a conscience, but there is something that even an atheist can't get away from. There is still that longing. There is still that void. There's still that emptiness. There is still that thing in us that causes us to look and to search and to question. The Bible describes it as God has placed eternity in our hearts. There's this supernatural longing, this desire that we can't even identify most of the time. And it motivates us to go in a lot of different directions and try a lot of different things. And it can take us to an end that no one ultimately desires. Because there is only one happy ending. There's only one. People get upset with God because we want everything in every way to take us on this journey of eternity. We want, no matter what, we want to end up in heaven. And we get upset about that. Listen, God owed us nothing. He put us in a perfect environment, in a perfect place, and made us perfect people, and we blew it. We said, there's something else I want. There's something else I want to try. There's something else I need. Instead of recognizing that he was all and everything that we needed. And we said, I reject you. And at that point in time, he could have very easily, and who in here would not have said to us, if you were him, I'm done with it. I did everything I could do. I made it as beautiful and as perfect as I can make it. And yet you have rejected me. Go ahead. Do whatever you want to do. We're done. But he would not let us go. He will not let you go. For the rest of your life, wherever that life is right now, God's going to be chasing you. He's going to be calling out to you. He's going to be speaking to you. He's going to be desiring you. And he's going to be patient with you. Because his eyes are on throughout the whole earth. His heart will be on you. because you are His creation. You matter to Him. You are important to Him just as much as anybody else on planet Earth. It doesn't matter how the world labels you. It doesn't matter the category they try and put you in. There's only one category. You are God's creation. And God cares. And He does not want to turn you loose to live your own life. He loves you too much to leave you where you are, but He wants to come into your life and give you hope and health and peace and joy and satisfaction. It doesn't mean that all your difficult circumstances will go away. We have preachers today, and I'll just personify this by saying, you know, they want us to actually believe that if you come to Christ, that every red light will turn green between here and wherever you're going. It's come to that place. It just doesn't happen now. You're still in this flawed world. You're still living under flawed circumstances. We are still broken people. But we have a God who does not desert us, but in every way tries to come to us and walk with us and instill in us who He is and a faith and a trust in Him that will take us on this journey and take us to the place that God ultimately wants us to arrive at His doorstep, in His presence, in heaven itself. What I'm telling you this morning is that God wants to restore the broken relationship. And He's gone through extraordinary measures to do that. He said, I love them so much, and they have sinned so greatly, that someone has to pay a price for that sin. And I'm willing to come, and I'm willing to take that sin upon myself. I'm willing to become the slave so that the slave can go free. So that the person bound can have freedom. So that you can have fullness and newness and abundant life. For that to take place, God said, I have to rectify this. You can't change it. I'm the only one that can, and I love you enough that I'm going to do that. And He came, and He took our sin upon Himself, and what the first Adam lost, the second Adam, as we describe Christ being the second Adam because He is the spiritual Adam. The first Adam was a physical Adam, and he brought us to death. The second Adam is a spiritual Adam, and he gives life. He restores what the first Adam lost. And now, when we embrace that, when we understand that truth, when we let that truth permeate our lives, it creates a whole new journey, a whole new avenue. Because what we've just said is, when we sign up for that, we have to give something away. What do we give away? We give our lives away. We exchange our life for His life. We give ours away, and He didn't just die for us, but He gave His life to us. The Spirit of the living God indwells His people. Because He knows you can't do this by yourself. That you need something greater than you are. You've already discovered that in your life. Can someone say diet? We all need one, but who wants it? We all want to do what's right. How can we do it? Only by the presence and the power of God working our lives. But there's a key to that, and I'm sharing that key with you this morning. The key to that is grabbing a hold of the understanding that the living God is a part of your life. He never leaves you or forsakes you. And He wants to take you someplace. And if you want to take that journey, it's called a journey of faith. And you're going to have to trust Him in that. No matter what it looks like here, your eyes don't look just here. God, if you are real, God, if you love me, God, if you wouldn't let that happen to me. The world will let it happen to you. God will come along and He'll say, because you're still living in a flawed world, it's still going to happen to you. Certain heartache is going to come. Hurt is going to come. Toothaches will still happen. Teeth still rot. That doesn't sound good, did it? But it's a good illustration. Stuff still happens, folks. But we don't let the stuff shake us. What God's trying to instill in us is unshakable faith. And if we hold on to our circumstances where He has brought us from to where He has brought us to, we're never on shaky ground. Because we know that God has got this. Because we understand that God's got us. Because He loves us, cares for us. And this thing we call grace is at work in mine and your life. And that grace may not prevent you from getting the flu, or worse, but that grace will come alongside of you and it will sustain you in the flu or worse. And you can, unfortunately, because of who we are, because we still have these old natures at work in us, difficulties are actually a blessing to us in disguise. Can you imagine? I'd be the most worthless preacher in the world if all my stoplights were green. If all my meals were steak and baked potato. I'd come in here and I'd be the most prideful person in the world. I've got it all. I can do anything. There's no heartache, there's no hurt in my life. Everything is just absolutely wonderful. You remember that old illustration of the guy who says, I just need to find that island in paradise. And it was really funny that you had the Andy Griffith show that, and I forget the guy's name, he was the accountant or something like that. Y'all should have immediately said his name. Howard Sprague. We've got a last name here. Howard Sprague. Sells out, says, I'm tired of all this stuff in here, and he ends up on this wonderful, unfortunately it was in black and white, so it was really hard to make that point. But he ends up on this wonderful just island in his HUD and the beach and the waves crashing, and he's just going, for a couple of days that worked out really good for old Howard. But pretty soon old Howard looked around and he said, you know what, this ain't any better than where I came from. Because there's something in us. And only God can come in us and feel what needs to be in us and satisfy that desire that we have. And what I'm telling you this morning is that God's called us to this journey of faith, individually but also corporately here at Double Springs Baptist Church. And I want you to know that our part in that is faith. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show Himself strong on behalf of those who tithe 25%. To those who sacrifice their complete life, they give their children to be burned in the fire. To those who walk around in rags, who give up everything, who fast 40 days a month. I know there's only 30 days. It doesn't say that, does it? For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show Himself strong on behalf of those whose heart. God doesn't need our money. God doesn't need anything other than our hearts. That's what His desire is. He wants a heart that is stayed on Him. He wants a life that is focused on Him. And we so easily get sidetracked in that, don't we? Every day we make a choice. We get up. Am I going to live my life today, or am I going to live His life today? Am I going to trust Him today, or am I going to trust me today, or my friend today, or my work today, or something else, my circumstances today? That's our daily, moment-by-moment choice that we have. you have this wonderful story of King Asa who's come to the throne in Israel. God's hand was for Israel. God had great plans for them. But they kept wanting to live their own lives. They kept wanting to go their own ways. They kept rejecting God for what they thought was the best. Good King Asa comes along in the midst of all that rejection, and his heart is stayed on God. His heart is right. He's come in with the right thinking, the right understanding, the right desire. Not for riches and wealth and gold and silver and a bigger place. He's come in there desiring that God will receive glory. That people would turn to God and look to God and trust God, because ultimately that is all we need. This is a temporary setting. Our lives are temporary. This is short-lived. This ain't going to last long, folks. I'm looking at folks who know what I'm talking about. This ain't going to last long. We're headed that way in a hurry. What's really? Don't wait till you look like this before you finally start realizing what's important. Start earlier. King Asa had a heart for God. And boy, God's eyes saw that, and his heart was with him, and his presence came upon him. And so you have in chapter 14 this incredible revival that's taking place. Because Asa is burning the idols and the Asherah poles and all those other religious things and getting rid of until we get rid of religion in our life, we will never experience relief in our life. We will never experience fullness of joy. It's not religion that takes us through this life. It is a relationship with Jesus Christ. And as we key in on that, then we can handle everything else. So here's Asa, and he's doing all these things, but suddenly he lives still in a flawed world. The Ethiopians look across the landscape and they say, boy, wouldn't it be nice if we owned Israel? And so they field a 1 million man army. Now Israel's, they got a pretty good army. I mean, they've got 500,000 guys here they can put in the field. 500,000. But then they find out here comes twice that number. I can't imagine what 1 million people look like coming over the hill, but I would imagine you can't see the hill anymore. And Asa had to make a choice. Asa had to decide, am I going to do this, or am I going to trust God to do this? And you hear him calling out to God here in verse 14 and 9. It says, then Zerah, the Ethiopian, came out against him with an army of 1 million men and 300 chariots. So Asa went out against him, and they set troops in the battle arrayed in the valley of Zarephath at Mareshah. And Asa cried out to the Lord his God, Lord, it is nothing for you to help, whether with many or with those who have no power. Help us, O Lord our God, for we rest on you, and in your name we rest on you. And we go against this multitude. O Lord, you are God. Do not let man prevail against you. What do you think happened? What do you think would have happened if Asa had just said, all right, guys, we can do this. Sharpen your swords, stiffen your back, and let's just yell and go out. They would have lost. But they cried out to their God. They had faith. And God answered. And he destroyed the enemy. God is still in that business. Our part of that is to have loyal hearts. Life's challenges quite often seem impossible, don't they? We quite often feel that we're just too weak to fight this battle. The odds are too great. The circumstances too difficult. But if we just keep our heart loyal to God, if we just understand that he is constantly watching over us, that God cares what happens in my life, God cares what happens in your life. And He will not abandon us. He does come to our, because God has a plan and a purpose. If we work our plan and purpose, we can expect God not to put His hand on it, because we are disloyal to Him. We are loyal to Him when we work His plan and His purpose. When we search His heart, when we desire what He wants, then we can fully expect that the eyes of the Lord are running to and fro throughout the whole earth, that He has seen us and He is willing to show Himself strong on our behalf. Listen, church. Asa's God is our God. We have the same God. We have the same opportunity. We can experience the same circumstances. But we are required to have the same faith. By the way, if you read a little bit further, you had a much smaller army who came up against Israel at a later date. And instead of Asa going back to the Lord, isn't that amazing? That God will come and He will show up in His presence and power. He will demonstrate who He is. And then something will befall us. And we will decide, He's probably not even listening anymore. I'll just take care of this. I'll just do the best I can at this. Asa decided he would handle it, and they failed miserably. Much smaller army. What changed those outcomes? It was their faith. It was their heart seeking God. It was their heart loyal to God. It was their heart looking to Him, trusting Him, calling upon Him, and knowing that He is able to do exceedingly abundantly more than we can ever ask or think. That's the God who calls us. But we have to have a heart loyal to Him, and in that loyalty of heart, we have to decide we're going to follow Him wherever He may lead. We're going to give you a budget on the way out the door this morning. It is a faith budget. I've already implicated some things in that budget. I want you to know that there are no victims in this budget. I believe, and listen, I have come here not to spend time, not just to hope for something. I have come here with a desire in my heart and a belief in my life that God wants to do something extraordinary in Mill Springs Baptist Church. I still believe that after 5 years. And I believe that we are poised for a great future. I believe that the hand of the Lord is upon us and for us. And if we will allow Him to do what He wants to do, if we will allow Him to speak into our life and say, yes, God, I want what you want. The same God who blessed, who delivered, who provided for Asa and that kingdom at that moment in time will also do that for us. Because God has a plan and God has a purpose for our lives. It is not just to go through the motions. It is not just to sit and soak. But it is to see God's kingdom come. That's God's desire. That's what He wants to see take place in every life and in every church. For His kingdom and His will to be done. The Lord's Prayer ends, does it not? Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That is God's desire. He is still powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-caring God. And He will do extraordinary things through us. If we will just simply have the faith to follow Him. I think of Moses, and listen, they're forget that idea, okay? That the pastor just put himself in Moses. Just put that aside. We can all laugh about that. But God called Moses to a plan and a purpose. And you know what it is. I don't have time to go on that. Did Moses go alone and do that by himself? Moses needed an Aaron. Moses needed others around him. This budget will reflect that need. I have thought about this process for a long time, and I see the need for Double Springs to have someone to bring order to what's done. We have a great church. We have a great system in place. There is nothing wrong with our Acts ministry plan. It is a biblical plan, and it will be a powerful plan. I'll use that word. If we work it, if we embrace it, if we will get a hold of it, and I need somebody alongside of me who can do that. Alan White was pastor here when he brought me on board and he brought Donald King on board. And you saw some of the best days that Double Springs ever had. It was because, as a staff, we came together and we worked together, and we offset each other. Everybody had this giftedness in their particular area, and we came together, and what one was lacking, the other made up. Well, if you haven't figured out now, after rubbing shoulders with me for 5 years, I'm lacking. I can do some administrative things, but that is not my ultimate gift. My ultimate gift is to do what I'm doing with you right now. To encourage, to exhort, to help, to bring hope, to develop people. But I need someone who can come alongside of me and who can take all the minutiae that goes with this, all the details that go with this, and my wife will tell you that you might as well give me a pair of scissors and tell me to go cut the grass in the graveyard instead of waiting for me to make out this detailed long list of everything that needs to be done and then break that down into subcategories and break that down into subcategories and break that. I just not. I wish I was, but I'm not. Because I'm not, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to see that need filled at Double Springs Baptist Church. I have already started my Social Security. I'm getting ready to sign up for retirement. I will bring those areas that are available into play so that I can forego a good portion of my salary and we can refocus that into staff, other staff, more full-time staff. And I'm talking about also bringing on a children's minister to look for someone who feels called of God, maybe who's already in school doing that, maybe finished school, or feels like God's called them for the rest of their life, that they want to work in children's ministry. Just as we called this fine young man and his lovely young wife, and you were patient for a year, it was a painful, patient year that we waited. And we prayed and we sought God. And God has delivered by our patience the staff that we need. I believe He is still doing that. I still believe He will do that. His eye is on us. His heart is for us. We just need to have faith in it, in Him, and see what He's going to do. That will reflect in this budget, and you'll also find a job description in that budget. I want you to look through that, a very detailed job description about bringing Eddie on full-time. I have worked with him for 5 years. I know his heart, and I'm not going to go into any of that at this moment. I just wanted to give you a preview about the direction I believe that we are headed and need to go. And I'm going to give you some time to process that. We're going to come, that's why I'm asking you to come back in here tonight. We're going to present that budget. You're going to have this afternoon to look through it. Have any questions you have. And we'll paint a picture about this coming year with that budget, what's in it. We will discuss it, and we will come to a conclusion. And then you'll still have a week to think that through. If you have any more questions, I'll be available. My office is open. You can come sit down. If you cares, concerns, encouragement, that's fine. And we will officially vote next week. So you're going to have plenty of time to digest this. I hope that you'll use most of that time to pray through it and to seek God in it and to trust Him for it. I believe that with everything in me, as I look at where we've come from, I see what God has done here. I see what He has provided here. If I had come in here and told you several years ago that we needed to spend $150,000 on this building, and in the process of that we would pay off our debt, you would have said, "Oh, really?" But God did it. And here we are. We are a blessed people. What are we going to do with that blessing? How are we going to let that operate in my life and in your life? What do we want to see God do here? I want to see Him do greater things. I'm investing my life here. Eddie's willing. He's invested his life here. The staff is investing themselves because our desire is to see God's kingdom come. And listen, it's coming fast, so we need to be about His business. I believe that this is a way to do that. As we enter into an invitation time, would you stand? I've said a number of things to you this morning. The first thing that I hope that you hear, and the first thing that I hope you remember this morning is that God knows who you are, He knows where you are, and His desire is for you. And He desires a relationship with you. And you have opportunity this morning, if you do not have that relationship with Him, if you're looking for that void to be filled in your life, if you're looking for real joy and satisfaction, then we're offering Christ to you this morning. And we're giving you an opportunity to respond to Him. That is a scary thing, I understand.